Series. I want to make sure I get that right. The semi-finals are happening on the 25th. That is actually, today's Thursday, and it's Thursday the 23rd. Yeah, so it's on Saturday, and all of that is happening there. And like we keep saying, rugby is a great sport, and it draws a lot of attention for those that are into the sport and for everything else that happens on the sidelines. So today we're talking about that, the aim of the tournament, and everything surrounding that, and what indeed you can look forward to as a viewer. And this morning with me I have Godwin Karuga, who's the tournament director. Thank you very much. And we also have Susan Maingi, who's the communications director for Bamburi, who are sponsoring this tournament. It's really good to have you both. Let's talk about the aim of the Super Series. Godwin, why bring all of these teams together?
Well, the Super Series started way back in 2003, and the aim of the tournament was to give an opportunity for the region players, but predominantly the Kenyan players, an opportunity to play at high level, because the 15s form of the game doesn't get that much exposure. So it started as a small tournament, 4 teams way back in 2003, then sponsored by Unga Limited using Jogo, and then Bamburi came on board in 2004, and they've been on board since then as a title sponsor from 2005. Tournament has grown over the years. 2007 and 8, Tanzania played for 2 years, but they felt that the level of competition wasn't what they could be playing at, so they pulled out, and then Uganda came in, and Uganda has been consistently there with 2 teams. What it has done to Kenya is that we've been able to grow the game in terms of now it's more regional. We have a franchise that is based at the coastal town of Mombasa. We've got a franchise that is based at the Rift Valley, and we've got a franchise that is based at the western part of the country, and a franchise that is predominantly universities, and then 2 franchise teams in Nairobi.
Okay, so all of this that's been happening from the first time up until this one that we're having now. Yes. You've seen a lot of new faces that are coming up and emerging, and new players that then, come into the limelight as being great players in this?
Oh yes. Our star 7 players all have gone through the Super Series. I remember when the Kayanges and then the Injeras were really the star attraction at the Super Series, and they still are really when they are not representing the country in the shorter version. But all these players, the Sudis, I remember the Simiu family with the 2003 edition. So it's really been great having all this. Some of them have been playing from inception and are still playing. People like Joel, who's a Kenya prop. So some of them have been there from the inception and are really passionate about the game, and not really playing the 7s version of the game.
Okay, and we'll talk about that in a moment, the 7s and the 15s, and why one of them just seems to get all the attention and all the limelight. But Susan, Bamburi being involved obviously quite literally from the start, or just shortly after the Super Series began, what has it meant for you to stay on from 2003 to date?
We are very involved in youth and sports development, and we believe strongly in developing talent from the grassroots, and it's actually in line with our motto of Bamburi Part of You from the start. And we've seen this tournament grow from year on from its infancy, in terms of even our sponsorship, in terms of development of the sport. 15th is actually the original rugby sports, and that's what we also want to build. You mentioned about the 7s, and we want the 15s to be like the 7s, because if you look at Kenya, and where we want to go in terms of even qualifying for the World Cup Rugby 2015, we want to be part of, from the start, as what we say, in developing that we have contributed for the team to reach there. So for us, this sport is very aligned in terms of what we want to do as a organization, as a company, and it's great. It's actually brilliant.
Okay, and there are plans, obviously, to be able to, put this out there. There's, it's being broadcast. Is this, from 2003 when you began to, what it is now? Obviously, it's grown in leaps and bounds. What are some of the things, the highlights of the tournament this year that we can expect?
Well, this year, obviously, we have regional teams that are predominantly with representation from the region. What happened in the previous years is that, for example, the Mombasa franchise would be allowed to quote-unquote borrow players from Nairobi or from anywhere else. But this year it was quite clear that they were not allowed to, so it helps with the development. Kisumu-based franchise will only use players from Kisumu, and Rift Valley only from Rift Valley. And the campuses, you have to prove to be in campus to play for that as well. The two franchises in Nairobi, really, Nyumbu and Papa, are made up of pretty strong clubs. If you look at they've got the top 6 clubs in the country who've been performing and playing the 15th version of the game at that level. So in terms of competition, obviously it has been skewed towards the stronger side. The developing or the emerging sides are struggling, but that was expected, being their first year, that they are really coming to the table as a full franchise. But in terms of growth and development, this is the direction to go, because now it gives them an opportunity to showcase who's going to be coming from Mombasa, who's coming from the Rift Valley, who's be coming from Nakuru, from Kisumu.
Okay. How are the fixtures decided? I know there's a whole science thing to this. It's not as simple as it may look. But, of course, the aim of it being, as fair and as balanced as possible. Just explain to us how these decisions were arrived at for the fixtures.
Okay. The pool games, which is the first 3 weekends, are really everyone playing everyone, and it's home and away basis. You have 2 or 1 home away. But when it comes to the semi-final, it is determined by really the sponsors, and this is usually to gain the mileage. So we have home semi. If a Uganda team makes the semi, whether they finish first or second, they have to have a semi, because you keep in mind that Bamburi is also regional, and we're trying to grow the game within the region as well. So if a Uganda team makes a semi, then there's a semi in Uganda, and the other semi is in Nairobi, and we play a 5 and 6 playoff, who are the teams that are also getting an opportunity to get games. The finals are also in Nairobi. And if you look at the fixtures, it's 2 games in Nairobi every weekend. This also helps with the fun, that you can come in at 2 o'clock, you have a game at 2 o'clock and at 4 o'clock. And because we also have the Chairman's Cup that is going on, so the games actually start at 11. So it's 11 o'clock, there's a Chairman's game, and then from 1 o'clock to around 1:45, there's a women's game. And then at 2 o'clock, then the games begin, and then at 4 o'clock, there's the main game.
Okay. Like I keep saying, rugby is an interesting sport. What do we expect from this particular tournament? We know the semis are on the 25th. The finals are actually on the 1st of June. But Susan, just tell us what we can expect, from all of this that's happening. Rugby is such a great sport, and it's so all-inclusive. I used to attend all those rugby tournaments when we were in high school. Fine, we went for the entertainment, but along the way we got to learn the rules of the game, because you are in that space. But just tell us about the organization of this, the setup and everything, and what Kenyans can expect.
I think Kenyans can expect 2 weekends, the last 2 weekends, of absolutely fantastic rugby. When you look at the quality of the game from the years previous, you can see we've really stepped up completely. And I have to give credit to what the Rugby Union and with partners like ourselves who have done in terms of developing the sports. I know a lot of people are saying, why, like last weekend, one of the teams, the scores were, quite fairly skewed, if I can put it that way. But I think it's part of development, especially if we're building franchises from the western part of Kenya, the coast. We have our teams from Uganda, who we also growing the sport there as part of our HIMA brand. So weekend on weekend, we're seeing fantastic rugby. It's getting tighter, it's getting closer. The quality is absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere is really great. I think it's not changed from the previous years. Right. And it's family friendly. You can come with your kids, your children, and they can also experience fantastic sport. And it's safe as well, it's secure. So you can expect fantastic rugby. 2 weekends of that. So please, I would like you, a special invitation for you to make sure I see you on Saturday.
Yes. For sure. And we've talked about the franchises, and I guess this is a great way of saying, okay, in Kisumu, we want the sport of rugby to, also grow as well. How has this been? Because I think, rugby was maybe for the elites and only those in Nairobi, and, everybody else in other parts of the country perhaps only played football or whatever it is. How have you seen the sport growing in Kisumu, in Nakuru, in Mombasa, in these places where the franchise exists now?
If you go a bit lower and look at the high school rugby, which is 15th rugby, predominantly it was 4 schools within Nairobi. But I'm not sure when a Nairobi team last won the 15th rugby. So it's all been, you're looking at, Mangu has dominated for a period now. You're looking at now Kakamega, Musingu, and these are the schools that are now really coming out. And non-traditional rugby playing schools, even within Nairobi, are now playing. Upper Hill has dominated for a while within Nairobi. You get people like Ofafa Jericho now playing rugby. So it's no longer that elite sport. We've seen this especially during the sevens, where when moving from Gong Road to Nyayo Stadium, you're looking at who comes to watch, and really it's become a festival, and the game has really grown.
Right.
So it's no longer that elite sport. Even from the spectator base, you get the people from all walks of life coming in to watch the game.
And of course that's by taking the risk to, as some would say, incorporate all the others, not just say, okay, we're in here, let's work with the ones that we know. And we're talking a little earlier about 15s and 7s.
Yes.
And the 7s is what's most popular, although 15s is the original form of rugby, as Susan said.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the 15s and what needs to happen to have it, on the same level of popularity, if you will, with the 7s rugby.
For Kenya to perform the 15s version, it's what you call the tight 5, or the front 5. That's the props and the locks. Who are the players we really need to develop as a country? Because if you look at the backs, this is 9 to 15. We really are okay if you look at our 7s. That is where our 7s team is able to perform, because predominantly the players are picked from the 15 side to play the 7s, but we have not quite developed the front 5 or the tight 5, and this is what the union is geared towards, developing the tight 5. Players, we're getting assistance from Western Province in South Africa. The players are going to be in South Africa for a holiday, for a training camp, and this is all geared towards making sure that we give ourselves the best opportunity to qualify for World Cup. And if we can develop a very good base for the tight 5, which is the weakness in our game today, then we can compete with any African nation within the 15th version of the game. Okay. 7s is proven. We are 5th in the world.
Right.
But we need to work on our tight 5, and it's a lot of investment, because developing the proper 15s players, this is a tight 5, is actually it's almost a 10-year phase where you identify the kids, work with them during the teens, and so that they can be ready for real competition.
Okay, all right. And Susan Nia talks like the maestro, doesn't she? Oh, the 15s is the original, and I'm thinking, okay, you're into the sport now, and it's something that's definitely enjoyable. There's a women's rugby you mentioned as well.
Yes, there is.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Great fun, and obviously, it's a great sport, isn't it? And now you're involved in it a lot more, wouldn't you say? More aware of the sport, and just knowing what happens. It's a great family event as well.
Yeah, it's a perfect family event. The atmosphere is great. We've geared it to be a family event as Bamburi, working with our partners, of course, the Rugby Union, and that's why we want to encourage actually the sports, because as Godwin says, building the sports has to start from the youth, the schools, and part of actually part of that is we've also encouraged school parties to come and watch the game as well. If you come as a school party and you're accompanied with in uniform, you can come and watch the game, because we also want to build it from the grassroots.
Right. Come in for free.
And come in for free,
okay.
you see. And how we've pegged even the entrances, like at 300 shillings, which is, it's not, too expensive. We perceive it's a good level to encourage all people from walks of life to come for the tournament. But trust me, yes, I've become a rugby person.
We've seen the transformation.
We've seen the transformation.
Yes.
You will be transformed as well.
I'm sure I will,
yes. It is brilliant, and I think once again, this sport and with our brand, I think it works very well. The spirit of the sport, the issue of resilience, dependability, strength, the discipline is very aligned to what Bamburi is all about. So I don't know what more to say,
all right,
but become a talk to me another day. I'll
Yes,
tell you a little bit more.
No, you know what? I think, in fact, we should, change this and now have you here when we're doing our sports review, talk about the matches. I'm pretty sure you tell us about that tackle and all of that that's happening.
Yes.
And that's good to see. And I like the fact that we have young students who can now come in for free, because the idea is for them to come see the sport and everything. Just in our closing comments, Godwin, we've learned about the family event, the whole events surrounding the game. Where do you hope to see the Super Series in the coming years? I mean, from 2003 to date, that would make this the 10th year, no? 11th year.
Yes.
What would you hope to see in the next 5 years, for example, about the Super Series?
To have, and this was the original plan, to have teams from Zimbabwe, Zambia, Uganda, and Tanzania, and also Kenya, to become like a regional, really franchise tournament where we can get one franchise from Zambia, maybe two from Zimbabwe, 2 from Uganda, and keep 3 from Kenya. And then we can really play within the region and grow our 15s rugby, because it's all about exposure. So in the future, the Super Series, I see it going that way, and it's already looking at the Elgon Cup, where we can, the 15th version, where we can incorporate Zambia or Zimbabwe or Namibia even. So that's, with exposure, is how we grow the game.
All right, Susan, your expectations, just very quickly as we wind up, been there from the start, pun intended. What do you hope for?
I hope this tournament can grow, from leaps and bounds. When we reflect back on where we came from, in 2003, just 4 teams, only based in Nairobi, to a 5-week tournament, with teams from playing in Mombasa, playing in Afra Stadium, in Mumias,
right.
2 teams playing in Kampala, Uganda. We'll have this weekend a semi-final in Uganda, where the team Nyumbu will play Rwenzori, and a semi-final here in Kenya, and the final. I think if we continue on this pace, I think, the sport of rugby and with support will achieve what Godwin has mentioned. I mean, in 5 years, why not, have a regional tournament?
Okay,
yes.
Indeed, and expand that. Who's playing in Kenya over the weekend?
It's Papa versus Ndovu. That's Papa is KCB Mwamba team versus Ndovu, who's based in Nakuru. So it's Nakuru, Rift Valley based side.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Yes.
Max
There's also
Vegas, bring it on.
a curtain raiser, which is a 5 and 6 playoff,
Right.
which is Kiboko from Kisumu versus Kengewa, the university side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you both for coming in. This obviously promises to be an interesting weekend, and of course it's this weekend and the next.
Yes.
Yes.
As well, as we go up to the finals. So some great stuff that's happening there for rugby in the country. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you very much.
This
Thank
morning.
you.
Godwin Karuga, who's the tournament director, as well as Susan Mangi, who's the communications director for Bamburi. It's all about the 15-a-side Super Series. It's taking place this weekend, a semi-final in Uganda and here in Kenya, and it's 2 weekends of great sport, great rugby, and of course great fun surrounding all the events that will be taking place there. I want to